Hi, everybody. It's Sally Wagner. Welcome to High Frequency Mindset Podcast. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome our guest, Pauline Rohdich. Pauline, welcome.
Sally, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, likewise. And I can't wait to introduce you to the audience so then you and I can talk. How about that?
Thank you.
Pauline Rohdich is the founder of Phenomenal Results Ltd. And is known as the Mindset Detective. I love that. She combines her expertise as an intuitive mindset coach and transformational hypnotherapist and her investigative skills, which she honed from her time as a Garda. So people may not know that that is a police officer, correct?
That is correct, yes.
She helps her clients to uncover the cause of their limiting beliefs so they can start over with confidence and self-belief. Her guidance and encouragement make her clients primed to reach their full potential with the right mindset for success. She has appeared on Ireland AM, the Elaine Show, and TodayFM. She has been featured in the Daily Mail and Positive Life magazines. Her speaking and client list include Bank of Ireland, AON Insurance Group, and Salesforce. She has spoken at several international virtual summits, sharing her lessons on conscious manifestation. All this experience has come together in a way that now serves her clients at the highest level. Through a unique combination of services that include spiritual success principles and proven practical strategies, she helps women take the mystery out of getting what they want. Pauline is an avid reader and learner. She loves yoga, walking in nature, travel, and good food. She lives in Galway, Ireland, with her fantastic husband, Declan, cherished teen son, Finn, and their adorable golden doodle, Luna. She published her first nonfiction book, a teaching memoir called Just Trust, on July 22nd, which became an international bestseller overnight. Again, Pauline, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Sally. Really appreciate it.
Yes, so I love that varied background, not the same, and yet we have a lot of commonalities. I was a prosecutor many years ago, so I worked in criminal justice system here in the U.S., and I love that you are a mindset detective. Did I recall it right?
You did. I mean, it just simply comes, again, it's like looking back on life as I branded myself with that a little over a year ago. And on the journey to find out, when it came to the branding and the marketing of what I was wanting to do and who I wanted to serve. And I played with many ideas, but I'm all about the mindset. I'm all about your soul and living your soul's purpose.
Yes.
But everything we do, we have to investigate and explore and become curious.
Yeah.
So I just sort of merged that background where, as a policewoman, I was investigating crime and looking for clues and putting things together for a court case. And so I just feel it was a skill that I learned that serves me very well now with clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you hit on such important points there with curiosity and investigation. And it's really all about that journey of discovery for women, for anybody, to figure out what they want, right? And then learn how to get it.
Absolutely. And I think more and more people, certainly the people that are coming to me, are often saying, I just don't know who I am. I don't know what's next for me. I just know I'm not fulfilled. I'm stuck. And so we have to figure it all out. Why are you stuck? Where are the patterns? What are the limitations? And it's a variety of, feelings of doubting oneself, or not feeling good enough, or feeling, that they've nothing really to contribute, which is, of course, not true.
Right. Exactly. And yet it starts with the mindset, because we have so much programming from the world, society, family, all sources that tell us things like that. I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I'm not good enough, all of those messages. So how do you help people overcome those limitations in mindset?
Well, because I'm a hypnotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, I help people under hypnosis to identify where the cause of their beliefs and habits and their thinking has come from, their mindset. So when they're in that state, they can clearly, the subconscious mind contains all of our memories.
Yes.
And of course, I know there's different schools of thought, if you like, around the age where our conscious mind has started to form and develop. Some people say 5, others say 7. So somewhere between the age of 5 and 7, our conscious mind has begun to develop. We've more cognition about what's going on around us. But before that, we have no ability to filter out anything that is inappropriate or untrue. So we accept everything. So therefore, we have a collection of memories and ideas about ourselves and beliefs that we form in early childhood, caused by, as you said, societal, influences. But initially, it would be those that took care of us, who raised us, parents or carers, our schooling. And then, of course, the idea is our beliefs. We make our beliefs as the child, and then our beliefs make us. So
Yes.
if I believe a certain thing about myself as a young person, well, I'm going to be exuding that energy. I'm going to be attracting those experiences. I'm also going to get evidence that that is true.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is it's not true, because the belief in the first place is untrue
Yes.
and unfounded.
Yeah.
So it's helping them to identify that. And then, of course, we eliminate it, and then we install new beliefs under hypnosis again.
Yeah. It's so true. And I tell people this all the time. It's not what you don't know that holds you back. It's what you do know that's not true that holds you back.
Yes.
And so it's a whole process to unlearn those things that we know that are not true. And it happens in so many ways, and it happens at the level of our subconscious. So you need practices like the hypnotherapy to get to that level, to, as you say, uninstall, and I use that same terminology, and then install new thoughts and behaviors.
Yeah. And it's so possible to change the whole trajectory of your life. And it's so liberating for people.
Yes.
The language that I hear mostly after a session is, I feel lighter, I just feel lighter, and I feel, more positive. And then, of course, it takes a minimum of 21 days to break an old habit. Mm-hmm. But according to the University of London, it can take up to 66 days to form a new habit.
Yes.
And people are shocked, because I do follow-ups with people. I do some coaching. I add some coaching into that process. It's like a transformational hypnotherapy program. And so the reason for that is I'm helping people through the transition, because I know that they're going to falter, and I know that change is hard. So I want to support the change and the transition. But inevitably, I take out my calculator on my phone, and the recording, I would make a hypnotic recording for each person afterwards that's personalized to their needs and their wants, who they want to be without these limitations. And so they get to listen to that. And so inevitably, it's anywhere between 16 and 20 minutes long, the audio recording. So maybe I speak to them 10 days after the initial session, and therefore they've done 10, 20 minutes, which is 200 minutes, which is just over 3 hours of reprogramming. And, when you equate that to, well, it's taken you a lifetime, whatever age they are, to get to where you were before we did this process. And now you've only been 3 hours reprogramming, and already they're seeing changes. Or maybe some of them are a little bit impatient. They're not seeing enough of a change. They have to understand. And I share this with them, that it takes time to build neural pathways. They're literally changing the brain. So it's not instant transformation, because that's impossible. You can have an instant light bulb moment, and an instant awareness, and an instant understanding. Oh gosh, that's what's been happening. I see that pattern. I now understand why, because we're not just dealing with the symptoms, we're dealing with the cause. So you can get an instant realization there, but for the change, it takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about how long it takes, it's not enough to get rid of the old behavior. It's to replace it with something positive, something that is consciously chosen, because if we don't replace it, we're going to fall back into those old patterns.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very important that people understand that. And I would be an educator as much as anything else when I'm helping people, because I want them to understand it, and understanding is very powerful, and it allows them to support themselves, because I'm all about empowering people. I don't want people to be dependent on me. I don't want people to be dependent on anything other than their own sense of who they are and to reconnect with that. Because I think a lot of our problems is because we have forgotten who we are. We don't know
Yes.
who we are at our core.
Yeah,
With spiritual
absolutely.
beings, you know, I mean, we're a soul, you know,
Yeah,
eternal being in this temporary physical body. And a lot of what has happened in our lives that has caused us to have those limitations are opportunities for growth and to reconnect.
yeah, absolutely. I agree. So let me ask you about your book that it came out in June, and you and I were working on a different book project together and it was all launching around the same time. And
Right.
And you had your book launch, Just Trust. Did I recall
That
the
is
name
it.
correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. So would
Yeah.
you share with us some of what the book is about?
Thank you so much. Well, this book had been percolating for many a year. It's a memoir, but it's a teaching memoir. That's the genre. So obviously I'm sharing teachables within the book, but I'm sharing my own journey of discovery and uncovering my true life purpose and all the twists and turns along the way, and the lessons that I learned, and also highlighting really my own innate wisdom, which we've all got this innate wisdom, but I knew it from a very, very young age. And so I'm highlighting that my own story, sharing that message, but it so that others can see the truth of themselves really in my story. And that seems to be the feedback I'm getting. It has certainly resonated with a lot of people from different ages, in fact. I've had teenagers read the book. I've also had women in their 70s read the book, and everyone in between. So it is resonating because it is a universal message at the end of the day. I just wanted to invite people to know that they have this superpower that is their intuition, their inner guidance system. And one of the big stories that I share, which is a big story in my own life, because I always wanted to be a mother. And I was told when I was 18 by my GP that it was highly unlikely that I would ever become a mother. And it was, I went to the GP because I had an erratic menstrual cycle for the 5 years that I had a menstrual cycle. And my mother thought it was a good idea that I got it explored. Now, it wasn't explored. It was simply a conversation across an office desk in a surgery. And there was no blood test. There was no examinations. It was just me saying what was going on in my life and being told that I probably wouldn't have children. Now, I was 18 years of age at the time, and I was subsequently told that in my 20s again by other doctors and again in my 30s. I was 41 when I had my son, because that day when that doctor said to me, you know, it's a highly unlikely you're going to get pregnant or be a mother. Of course, I wasn't looking to get pregnant at that age, but I remember feeling really, you know, obviously very sad. And there was a moment of, is this my fate? And my goodness, am I broken? Is there something wrong with me? And then immediately this voice from within said to me, don't let it in. You're going to be a mother. And I held on to that. And I never said it to anybody. You know, I never told anybody that, but I had been receiving messages. I would be very clairaudient. I was receiving messages from a very young age in terms of God and religion and spirituality and my own understanding of what God and spirit was. And it wasn't really found in a strict Catholic upbringing that I had. And I've no problem with anybody who has a strong religious upbringing. You know, for me, I just knew that it was very divisive. And I always wanted to be part of this world and this global community and have friends from different backgrounds and cultures. And it might have been a very naive thing, but it's interesting that I have exactly that in my life. I have friends from all over the world. I have done extensive travel because of one of my careers as well in British Airways as cabin crew, but also my love of travel. I have friends from every denomination and culture and color skin, you know, and that's what I always wanted, even as a child. But the way we were being taught, it was potentially telling us, no, you can't have that. You know, you've got to stay in your box and with this particular tribe, etc. And I suppose I've broken a few molds and I've broken a few rules. And I married a man who was married before, and he has 2 children, and they were only small children at the time, 26 years ago when I met him. And it was all taboo, you know, but I just had this inner trust. I was listening to this inner voice. And I've shared all of those stories in the book. And just to invite people to trust that voice, because it does speak to us. Our life speaks to us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what it's about.
And what a fabulous journey. And And I love the title, Just Trust. And going back to our earlier conversation, I think we're taught not to trust those voices and those messages. And so a lot of what I do sounds like what a lot of you do in coaching is to help people reconnect with that, because it's so powerful.
Very much so. And I guess I've always been somebody that challenged. I love my parents very much, and I'm very blessed that they're still living. I love them very much. They did the best they could with their level of awareness. So,
Sure.
and that is another story that I share in the book, because I knew that I never, ever wanted to fall out with my father. My father was the religious one, my mother not. But I knew I never wanted to fall out with him, because I knew on a level that I could never articulate that was not the way to go. I didn't want to have to be dealing with a fallout or that disharmony in my family. I wanted to love my father even more for what he was trying to do for me. He was doing it to protect me. He was doing it, trying to guide me, that this is the way. But it wasn't the only way, and it isn't the only way. And the message I received when I was 6, saying the rosary one night, very reluctantly, I heard the message in my ear, there is another way. And there is another way for everything. There's another way to know God. There's another way to be married. There's another way to have children. I am blessed to be a biological mother. I'm also blessed to be a stepmother. So, I have 3 children in my life, and I have numerous nieces and nephews, and I have a lot of children that come to me for, help with anxiety and various things. So I love children. I taught children yoga and various things. I've had a lot of children in my life, and I love it because I really thrive in that environment. But yeah, I mean, the love was very important. But I kind of had this awareness, that more awareness, I could say, than my parents had. And that's not to sound, facetious in any way or kind of condescending to anybody. But I just seemed, and I remember one time a healer that I went to myself, he did family constellation work, and he told me that really the roles were reversed. I was really the parent, and it's probably true. And I was the third parent for my 5 siblings as well, which they would often remark on, and they would agree with that. So it's, when I look back on my life, everything has happened for good reason, because I feel I can really connect with people from different walks of life, and I can empathize, because my life certainly has not been in a straight line. I've had many detours, but it has all helped me to become who I am today. And I like who I am. I feel I'm in my authentic self. I'm being the most happiest work-wise that I've ever been. And I've done so many different things, but I truly love what I do.
Yeah, amazing. And as you were sharing that, I was thinking a lot of us, myself included, have taken the scenic route through life, and
Exactly.
And to get to the point where, as you were saying, I love who I am. Many of us finally, we love who we are, and so perhaps at the time we weren't thrilled about the journey, and yet in retrospect we can really see how it led to the victory of who we are now.
Well, I think no experience that we've had in life is wasted.
Yeah.
And again, it is a mindset shift to see it that way, because obviously if we don't, we're dealing with a victim mindset, which is very disempowering.
No, yeah, it's just, yeah.
And rarely can people lift themselves out of that unless they get some help, of course, or even recognize that they can have an alternative, or that there is another way to the way that they think. Because a lot of people are just going around on autopilot. They're sleepwalking through life. And again, that's not to be disrespectful or judgmental, not at all.
Yeah.
We don't know until we know. And I think that's why it's so important that more and more of us are coming out and sharing our gifts and talents and turning up that light and showing what's possible for people. Because, I mean, you and I doing the same work effectively, but we'll do it in a different way, because you'll bring your experiences from your life to the work that you do, and I bring mine. So we will naturally resonate with different people, and different people will gravitate towards us because of that energy connection. It's amazing, really. I mean, it leads me into something else entirely, but I'm always sharing with the women that I work with that there is no competition.
Right.
when you're being yourself. There is no competition. And here you and I are both coaches, but there's enough for both of us and
Yeah.
everybody else that's out there doing this kind of work. And in fact, there's room for more to actually do this work,
Yeah.
so that we can help people to become aware that there is another way and not to be in that victim mindset.
Absolutely. And to your point, it is so individual, it's because we're going to resonate at an energetic level. So someone who is going to be drawn to you, not going to be drawn to me necessarily. And that's as it should be, right? Because we're here.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And to be okay with that and mature
Yeah.
about that, and it's fine, and respect people's decisions,
Absolutely.
There is certainly enough for us all to go around. And I think, every time we are faced with a challenge, there's an opportunity to do a bit of an audit of ourselves and find out, well, could I have done something differently? How am I showing up? And because we are humans, although we're spiritual beings, but the human part of us is impacted by certain circumstances and things outside of our control, but we always have the control of our mind. We always have the ability to really manage ourselves in that way. And it's very important that we do.
Absolutely. And that's all part of resilience building, and as we build resilience, then we're able to call upon those higher frequencies on demand. And then we're able to respond rather than react to circumstances.
Well, resilience, according to Deepak Chopra, is a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I teach a lot about resilience. It is such an important thing.
It really is. Well, I'm definitely a rubber ball. I definitely keep bouncing back.
Yeah.
It's because of the purpose, driven by something inside, and even if something happens that is not to my liking, I am grateful to have the ability and the insight to know it's happening for me. What do I need to learn?
Yeah.
And, just regroup my thoughts and off I go again.
I think that's all part of the mindset piece that, when we approach it with curiosity and openness, then we don't get dragged down into those low frequencies of potentially victimhood and, despair and all of those things. We can maintain a higher level with curiosity, with eager anticipation of what's next.
And enthusiasm, and never losing.
And joy. Yeah. Yeah.
And no, we have a choice. I mean, we have a choice.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to recognize that you do have a choice. And it's important as well to challenge some of the beliefs that have held you back and, that are outdated and expired and very much obsolete. And to be okay with being honest about it and recognizing that you can change. I think honesty is really important here, and helping people to be honest with themselves.
Yeah.
There's nothing more liberating for me to hear somebody that I'm working with say things that, once upon a time they could never have admitted to, because already they have just, moved so far forward in their lives with that acknowledgement. And then the awareness that they have as a result. And then it's just a question of, okay, what do I want? Who am I? How can I contribute? What am I here to do? They are big questions. They absolutely deserve and warrant our attention, because the alternative is to go around in a circle, going aimlessly nowhere and always hitting nowhere. Aim at nothing, you hit nothing. And I heard a quote from a Henry Kissinger quote: if you're not clear about where you're going, you're always going to end up nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like to help people just to really connect and have purpose and a mission and an aiming point, at least, and going for it.
Yeah. That's so important, to have that sense of direction and where am I headed toward, right?
Yes, very much so. But it's exciting. The journey can be very, very exciting. Yes, it can be challenging, but again, it's a question of, why are things happening in this life to me? That's the victim question. Why is it happening for me? Is a very empowering question, because then you get a chance to look at it differently and explore new ways. And recognize habits that you want to change.
Right. Exactly. And that's what coaching is about, because it's hard sometimes for people to see it for themselves. And just that little bit of somebody else's perspective to help guide them to reach their own higher perspective is so important.
Well, what I love about the coaching model really is, and I've really had to train myself not to jump in at times to give answers to people, because that is not so helpful.
No.
And, it's just, I'm enthusiastic. I can sometimes see the patterns, but it's not helpful. I've learned that over the years, and I've learned to be quiet, because the whole idea of the coaching model really is to help people get insights themselves, because that is when you truly awaken to your power.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the ability to be quiet is so important. I learned that many years ago in negotiating. It's a powerful negotiation tactic, because a lot of people are not comfortable with silence, and so they start talking to fill it, and you learn a lot when people. I
agree with that. I totally agree. I mean, I think back in my youth, I would have been shy about those long pauses, but now I will be instrumental in creating them.
Yes, yes, fabulous. So I have a couple more questions for you as we're kind of winding down here. And my first question, and here's the setup. In my coaching, I use an acronym a lot of times, and it's MSG. These are going to sound familiar because we've talked about it. It stands for mindset, skill set, and get off your asset. Because it really incorporates a lot of very important principles that we've been talking about. So as you look over your journey and the way you are so instrumental in serving people, what is a principle that you identify that contributes to your success?
Believe it or not, the one thing that I adhere to is loyalty to my soul. So I have been really, my whole life has been about, why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? So I've been on that investigative journey for a long time, decades, in fact. And being loyal to my soul, I've recognized that I'm here to help others to be loyal to theirs. Now, I get quite emotional when I say that, but that is where I'm always trying to steer people to understand that beautiful meaning of their lives is that they have got something to share, and that nobody can do it like them. And so if that's a principle, I've never been asked the question before, but that is just my answer to that. I know that each one of us has a purpose, and I have done it for myself, the investigative side of things. I feel very comfortable where I'm at. I know that it's going to continue evolving for me, but I know it's only going to go deeper and hopefully have more of an impact, and maybe narrow things down and maybe even simplify what I'm doing. I think there's definitely room for that. But in essence, what drives me and what gets me out of bed is helping people to understand themselves more and to realize their value and that they have something really to offer. That is what guides me and what influences me.
I love it. That is a beautiful expression of being authentic and true to who you are and your mission and vision and purpose in life.
Thank you.
Yes. Final question. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, my website is very simple, themindsetdetective.com. On Instagram, I'm exactly that, The Mindset Detective. They're probably the two best ways of contacting me, really. Via the website, I offer a complimentary Investigate Me call, a bit like your discovery call. And it's just an opportunity to, talk about perhaps what are the limitations that you've got, because my main focus is to release you of those limitations, so that you can be all that you're born to be. And I can help you see that and ways to perhaps release that and eliminate them in your life.
Fabulous. So everybody, if you did not write that down, make sure you check the show notes, because all of that information will be there. I strongly recommend reach out for that free investigative session. That sounds amazing. And Pauline, thank you again so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Sally. My pleasure, honestly. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Likewise. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Make sure you tune in next time for High Frequency Mindset Podcast.